Welcome, everybody, to Integrate Yourself. I'm your host, Allison Pillow, and you can find me at pureenergypdx.com. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Mike Salimi. Mike specializes in human performance and is a sought-after international presenter in the field of health and fitness. He has a diverse background in strength and conditioning and has completed over the course of 15 plus years an elite level in powerlifting and kettlebell sport. Through his own path of resolving sports related injuries, Mike understands the importance of integrating the body, mind, and spirit as a means of fostering high performance for the long term. His motivation is to help people discover their own potential from the inside out. And I love that so much, Mike. Thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. I'm so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today because as we were talking before the show, you're getting into this or you have been doing the men's work and helping other men really go deeper into aspects of themselves to heal those parts so that they can start healing from the inside out. Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, right? And I had the pleasure of gifting my husband a gift to your Mount Shasta retreat, and he came back just loving it so much, and he enjoyed every minute of it and got so much from it. So I am so grateful that he got to experience that with you. So thank you.
Oh, well, super welcome. Fully received that. And yeah, for many reasons, one of which is I got to spend some really good time and quality time with Liam. Am I super excited to be here? So, yeah, thank you for giving him that gift. I think, it's been interesting is after that retreat, one of the most I don't know, rewarding thing was actually getting reached out by the partners of the participants, a few of them, and just saying how grateful they were and just how much changes that they're seeing within their partner and the impact it's having on their partnership and their relationship. And that was something that was a very unexpected, pleasant surprise. And so I'm super grateful for you for just trusting me and encouraging Liam to do that and gifting him that. Like, really, what better gift to give someone is that opportunity to work on themselves, because there's only so much stuff, and honestly so much appropriate stuff that you can work on within a partnership. Like, I really feel like
Yeah.
men need other men. And so I think when any guy has that type of experience and that safe space created around men, there's something so powerful and profound that happens. So the gratitude is right back at you as well for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Give me 1 second, Mike. Let me just tell Liam to be quiet for a second. He's talking really loud. I just want to make sure it's not
He's
picking up.
passionate. He's
I
passionate.
know. Okay, 1 second. I got a
Can you
new
be a little,
studio,
I
so
heard you
it's
like, can you be a little quieter? Just a little bit.
just a little bit. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so men's work and how so I wanted to really talk about today how important it is for men, like you said, to be able to be around other men and be able to express themselves and maybe get deeper into how that really helps with the relationship. Because I felt like for me, you and I discussed a little bit also before the show how my experience was that I get frustrated a little bit because of things. Sometimes men tend to just hold a lot in and not express through, express how they feel all the time, or even maybe want to talk about it. And so sometimes that gets frustrating from a female perspective of not knowing. And of course, from our perspective too, we have to step into more of our intuition and our trust. And at the same time, I find that, men also need just more more space and quiet time for them to process as well. So, and I tend to like to talk it out, you know. But but I think one thing that was really helpful was just to take the space. So him to take space, you know, because I think this is something that has been going on for many generations. And men kind of go with men, and when women go with women, and we heal what needs to be healed or connect the way we need to connect, and then we come back together. But we've lost that tradition somewhat in modern culture, right? And so how have you found, what have you found in your work with men, and how that's really healing men, and what that's doing for what are you seeing that's happening within their relationships? Because I feel like it's helped me so much, just be able to trust more that he is able to take care of himself that way, and he's learning how to do that.
Yeah, I think those challenges are almost, at least from my experience in talking to females, talking to my partner, talking to a lot of the guys at the recent retreat or in other men's work, that's almost universal. And the fact that like I really do believe that men, one, need other men, as we've already just touched on, but like men need solitude.
Yes.
Men and we all, I think it's maybe a misconception or a misunderstanding that the partner, whether it's male or female or whatever it is, that that partner needs to be everything to you. That partner can't be everything to you. You're your own individual. You process how you process. And just speaking to the differences of men and female, like I need solitude. And like actually the inspiration for the men's retreat and the courage to do it. Yes, I've had friends that have like encouraged me to step into that and give it a shot, and like they know how much it lights me up. But the real honest conversation with myself, and that I wanted to show up differently or wanted to add this, all came up in 3 days in solitude. Literally, I think the week before I made the decision that I was going to do it, I went for 3 days basically in the woods. And, you know, my partner, Lauren, I let her know like this is something that I need to do for me. I love teaching functional fitness and kettlebells and Bulgarian bags, etc. But there's felt like there's been something missing in that, like support. And even though my programs are very focused on lifestyle and balancing the body and energizing, it's not just about technical movement or workouts. Still, like I've really felt like I'm missing nourishment there. And that's been like partnership and relationship is really important to me. It's like one of my highest priorities. And my purpose and my calling and how I serve is right up there. And if I feel disconnected from that, or I don't feel confident in that, or I've got doubts around that, there's a tremendous amount of internal stress that it causes inside. And so that solitude time, one, for me to process in a way that feels natural and authentic and needed for me. And it means actually, I don't think it means anything negative about the relationship. I actually think like what you shared about needing to give him space, and I need that space, and I think that men need that space. So much beauty came from, and so much growth came from those 3 days in solitude. And like what I'm really seeing is the way that men are able to hold space and show up for other men. It's just it's just not possible, or at least in my experience, it's just not possible to get that from a female. Like I get so much from my partner, but I can't expect her to be a man. Like
Yeah.
there's just conversations that I have with my boys and the guys I hang out with. My brother, for example, it's just it's just different. And I think that it's not something that there's anything wrong with a relationship. I actually think it's a sign of a very healthy relationship when both partners can allow that space. And also too, like in that space, in that time with men, or in that time with solitude, you know, I've talked about this with my partner Lauren recently. Like there's a polarization that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, one of the challenges, like I work from home, Lauren works from home, we spend a lot of time together, and that's beautiful. But when we spend all day working together with each other, that polarization can kind of like reduce. And I think we need that. And what I find is like And the stories from the partners have all come back with like, wow, like there's more passion in my relationship.
Yeah.
He's more certain about what he wants. There's like he can hold space and listen to me better. And I think that all comes from that separation. And I think that was like you were sharing, that's been a part of traditions for so long, but we've really lost that in a time like COVID. It's even
Oh yeah.
harder to do that. So those are all just some of the things that I've noticed, and I think it's actually a sign of a really healthy relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's, you nailed it when you said polarization, because it's the polarization that actually provides the sexual attraction. And, the relationship aspect is more about sameness. Polarization is more about opposite. So when you can separate yourself for some time and then come back together. It's almost like, especially if you've been together for a long time, it's like you're dating again, like that same feeling, right? And you can lose that over time, especially when you're like best friends with your partner and you do everything with them, and you're very much liking the same things all the time, and then some of that sexual polarity gets lost, right? So then we have to kind of reignite that by having that time of separation and getting back to ourselves too, which is helpful. I just took some time to myself. I took a trip down the West Coast for a couple weeks, and then came back, and it was just so nice. First of all, to have the time to myself, and secondly, just to feel like they're like kind of like, oh, hi again. They like reintroduction to the relationship. And so this is, Liam and I have been together for 24 years. We've been married for 24 years and been together longer than that. And so we have two kids, one 20-year-old, two sons, one 20 and 18. And so we're coming up to just a different phase in our lives, and kind of a repurposing of the relationship, because when you've had kids together, there's that common purpose that you're striving for together, to take care of the kids and create a home, and do all of these things. And then finally, when they're out at the door, and then you become an empty nester, then your relationship actually changes, is what I'm learning. So so it's an interesting journey. And I've been it. So what men go through at this time in their lives too is what's been described to me as the tunnel. And it's really. Do you know much about that, Mike, at all? Okay.
No, no, no. Share, please.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember that. I think it's like the development of men, or so, it's a book. I think that's the name of the book, and I can't recall the author, but I can put it in the show notes if anybody's interested that's listening to read that book. It's pretty good. I mean, it's like very basic, but it was from the 90s. And she talked about men's phases in life. And it starts out with them being like kind of the first phase. Again, it's very basic, but the first phase is like, you need to, in your early 20s, be able to explore. Like, men need to be able to explore before they commit to a relationship, and travel, do all the things they need to do, take risks. And then they have a building phase of building their life. And so that's like really like they're just in the thick of it, and really working really hard to build. And then they get to a point where they're in the king phase, and they're giving their gifts. And it's a very it's a time of inner knowing. And and so, but they have to go through the tunnel between the phase of the building phase and then the king phase. They have to go through a tunnel like a deep, like dark night of the soul kind of thing, where they're going through, finding themselves, like, who are they? Midlife crisis is sometimes what it's called as well. And then once they get through the tunnel, then they get into the king phase, which they're in a more of a giving mode. So I just thought that was interesting. And I've noticed that, a lot of times when men are in a midlife crisis, it's sometimes just a spiritual awakening, right?
Totally. And I'm curious, when you were sharing that, do you happen to recall around what age that happens in that transition? Obviously, it's going to be different for each person, but do you recall that at all, or did they touch on that?
I believe it's probably I would say like, 50, mid 50s and on, like that phase
That's what I
might
get.
be. It
Yeah.
just depends on, maybe where the person's at and how far the man has like developed himself. Some men, change careers and then it kind of starts that building phase starts all over for them in a way. But it's really interesting to look at it that way, especially from a woman's perspective, because like I just didn't, sometimes women get frustrated. I could speak for myself that, oh, you're not where, we're not in the same place, or you're not understanding where I'm coming from. And it's just that we develop differently, just because for men, like also the building phase is a provider stage, provider time where they're building a life to provide. And these are natural instincts that men have to, but again, like this is just a generalization, but if you can see that first and then build on that, it's interesting from my perspective to be able to then say, oh, okay, this is the phase. Now, again, it doesn't define that person or exactly who they are, but it's just giving you an idea of what phase in life they're in, right?
That makes
Yeah,
total sense.
yeah,
That makes total sense.
yeah. So, yeah, but I just thought and so I kind of identified it as him being in the tunnel and then sent him your way.
Well, you know what? Like and I'm learning so much about, and I'm fascinated right now about just men's development. How did we get where we're at? What are some of the challenges? It's so cool to like, before anyone, for example, signs up for the retreat, just to make sure they're the right fit, I'll hop on a call with them, figure out where they're at, what they're struggling with. And obviously, like we each got different issues and challenges, but there is so much similarity and like underlying themes that I've really identified, or at least through the conversations I've had. So whether it's like the lone wolf mentality, like the thought that we have to do it all on our own, was like a
Right.
really, really, really common one. And like one thing that I found fascinating is like, so as I've been just reading more and having these conversations, there's been a really cool book called Iron John. Have you heard about that
Oh
by chance?
yeah, that I did. I actually gave that book to my husband too. Yeah.
Well, like it's a
Uh,
really cool it's by Robert Bly for those who aren't familiar, and it's just a really interesting book. And one thing that really stuck out to me especially is, so one of the things that they share in the book, and I've seen this in my own life and challenges even just with my own dad or how I was raised was, if we think back to hunter gatherers,
mm-hmm.
whatever it was, I don't even know, 20,000 years ago, etc. Fathers were with their sons all day,
Yeah.
every day. They were basically, whether it was taken out hunting or learning specific skills and crafts and all these things, there was a deep level of trust just by the amount of time that they spent. They knew exactly not only what their dad were doing each day, but where they were at, all that stuff. And then even in transitioning into the agricultural revolution, that was still, it was less than, let's say, hunter gatherers, but there was still that side by side, that mentorship, that fathering, that observance of what their father was doing all day, the learning, the teaching, the passing down of traditions. And so that still continued. But then there was a massive shift during the industrial revolution. And so during the industrial revolution, most of the time fathers were actually pulled from their homes and sent into cities to work. And
Mm-hmm.
so what was happening then, and continue that same theme to this day, basically what was happening is his fathers were not spending remotely as much time with their kids as before their sons. So maybe for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day, they were missing. And so what happened was in the psychology of sons specifically, there was there was an inherent lack of trust. Basically, like my dad is great, love him to death. And he provided for us, like, holy shit, came from nothing, Sicilian immigrant. Like, I can get it now looking back. But at that time growing up, how I experienced it was my dad was gone all day. I didn't know what he was doing or what was going on.
Yeah.
He would come home exhausted and really didn't have much energy to play the father role, other than all I knew is he was providing for us. And so that is like a lot of times how we've gotten, just there's that inherent mistrust. We don't know. We've missed a lot of that passing down of rituals, of rites of passage, of getting
Yeah.
wisdom from our elders. And so I see that in a lot of even just challenges that I've had, and as well as some of the other guys too.
Yeah, yeah. I call it the latchkey generation, right? I mean, I was a part of that too, and it was I had a similar experience, but but that makes so much sense that there would be something that feels like it's missing within the relationship, right? Because you don't have that connection on a daily basis like we were used to having, our ancestors had. And so that makes complete and total sense. Yeah, I remember feeling similar things. Like I didn't know much about what my parents did during the day, and that I would kind of be handed off to, someone to watch me, or I'd come home by myself and have to figure it out. It was like, did feel a lot like that as well, and I feel like that it was very much, of that generation, because both parents were going to work, and so yeah, that's, I can imagine that would create a lot of confusion for people, especially
Totally.
men. Yeah, like how am I supposed to show up? What am like you know inherently that you're like that didn't feel good, so I don't actually want to show up like that. But how do I show up, right? How do I show up for my son and all that? So, or
Where's
my
the model?
daughter.
Where's
Yeah.
the model? Like there's very little to no modeling of what like and not only is there like little to no modeling, but there's just so much pressure on men that men
Yeah.
put on themselves. We got to be the provider. We got to have all the answers. We got to quote unquote be able to fix this. We have to have like literally I got to be ready to go and have unbelievable sex every time a day and like it's just a lot. It's a
That's a
lot.
lot of pressure. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'm curious if you don't mind, if we can use maybe Liam as just a little bit of an example. What would you
Yeah.
say is some of like, I don't know, maybe like the biggest things that you've observed and felt as a partner since coming back from an experience like that?
Well, he has definitely created a practice of meditation every morning. Now he's been doing it every morning.
Wow.
So he's, you know, he really is value. I think he's prioritizing time for himself more, which is a big deal, I think, for anybody. And I notice more of a calm demeanor, and just, just that groundedness, that like, when we begin to realize that it's like there's nothing really to do, or you just be, you're just here to be. And so I'm finding that there's just that his energy is definitely more calm and more grounded, and holding space and, uh, patience for, for processing, which has been really amazing to see. Um, and just also really, um, like just I've been doing some of this more too, like, just paying more attention to the moment and being in the now and just appreciating it and having fun and being more grateful instead of trying to go to the next thing, and so it's just like, I think it's that, that inner calm that, allows you to uh, just be in the now a little bit more. I've noticed that he's definitely, uh, has more of that going on, and I think it's also because of the practice. And he just, I think it just provided so much healing for him on so many levels, and it gave him also more of a, got him more curious about his spirituality, and like getting into that, and doing more. I think he's going to Austin, in a week, I think, for to see Yuri at, for another breath work, workshop. So he's really loving it and enjoying it. So that's really great to see. I'm really happy for him. And again, it's not, I didn't gift it to him to fix anything, like I don't like get fixed and come back, this new, no expectations there. It was just like more like, hey, um, I want you to I want you to like love yourself, I want you to learn how to like really, not that there's no judgment there. Like we all are learning how to love ourselves. But it's just a gift. A gift is just something that you don't really have expectations about. You don't need any results from. You're just giving it unconditionally. And so that's what I felt like I was doing for him with that.
That's so amazing. There was so many things that came up as you were sharing. And, one of the I've shared this with a very few amount of people, but one of the maybe kind of intentions in the back of my head, or something maybe I wanted to prove to myself or just curious, is with this retreat specifically, like in the retreats that I've assisted, this is like my first retreat that I've kind of coordinated and led. I've assisted in other men's retreats. Typically there was some aspect of plant medicines involved, and I don't think there's any comparison to plant medicine work, and I think that can absolutely have a place, especially if someone is stuck in a pattern, if it's guided well. And what I love so much about just what I've already learned about you, and just the name of this podcast, is the name of the game is integration.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was really curious about is, could, obviously, again, there's no direct comparison to it, but could that level of vulnerability and growth and that stuff happen without some of the medicine? And
Right.
for me, it was like, and breath work you had shared, that was a big part of the retreat for me. And that comes from what I observed and what I've now heard already from some of the other guys, without bringing up plant medicine as a whole, is it's an overwhelming yes. And what I'm seeing is these guys are able to, like, sometimes with medicine work, like you can get blown out, like
Yeah.
totally blown out, especially if you take too much medicine and there's not space and the integration isn't guided, or you haven't created time for that. But what I'm really seeing is, like, we were together all day, every day, with activity after activity, some space in there for sure for some decompressing and downtime. But what I'm really seeing is these guys are like hitting the ground running when they're going home, as opposed to being so blown out that
Yeah.
they're integrating right away. And so I'm seeing, and the other thing that I'm seeing too with any transformative experience is it's going to shake some shit up. Like, it's, I look at it like the picture in my head is like, you have a tree, I don't even know, let's say an olive tree, and you take the trunk of that tree and you're like shaking that tree so that the dead leaves fall off. And so, like, I'm getting calls now, I don't know, well over a month after, I don't know if we're 2 months out, but some guys are having some really big challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel, some of them have incorporated more ritual in their life and things are moving well, but some guys are actually thinking about leaving their profession that they've been a part of for 10 years, or they're like, I'm really struggling, like there's so much stuff. And I'm like, well, like, it's not all going to be good, or it's
Yeah.
not all going to feel good, but the fact that you're questioning so much, and you're like that's all a part of a deeply transformative process, and it lets you know that you're really getting curious into why you're doing what you're doing, what you want, how you want to show up for yourself, for partnership. So it's a beautiful thing. And like, whether it's breath work or just, we did some eye gazing, which, it was funny when I hopped on a call with one of the guys, and I wasn't planning on I didn't, at least in the agenda in the beginning, I wasn't planning on doing eye gazing. It was something that me
Right.
and the facilitators felt would be good on the day or so before when we met. And one guy was like, I'm super excited about this. I'm super down, but just tell me right now, is there going to be like eye gazing involved? And I was like, look, bro, like, at this point, it's a no, but I can't tell you that it's not going to be there. But all of those things, and that night, it was so cool that some of the guys approached and like, dude, we already got our money's worth. And it was just like dropping people into that level of presence and of holding space, like you said, and that vulnerability. Um, so it was really cool because, going back to like a kind of hidden curiosity I has, like, can this level of work be done without? And it was just like, oh hell yeah, it can. And I'm seeing
Yeah.
people running with some of the changes much quicker than I thought, than I could have imagined.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Mike. I think that you can get to those levels without plant medicine. Although the plant medicine is wonderful to have as well, but like it's also really be wonderful to know that you can do it with your own faculty, and within your own self without the extra push. I've done this in emotional coaching intensives and with journeys of wisdom before, with hypnosis and those kinds of things too. Of course, breath work, like you did also the dance, right? What's it called again? The where you go in trance dance, is that what it's called? Or yeah.
You know what you're speaking. So for the listeners, so one of the things, what I shared about Iron John, basically the retreat, there was two things that I wanted to incorporate. It wasn't going to be the crux of everything, but was to have some type of rite of passage
Mm-hmm.
and some wisdom from elders included. And so we had a sweat lodge, which was super super rad. And then at the end, I found this guy in the UK. He's been a shaman for 30 years. His name is Yakov Darling Khan.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I
What a
found it
name.
because, what was so funny, and it's just like everything for a reason. Like I don't doubt really much anymore. If it's in my life, I've either it's there to teach me something. I've called it in, whatever it is.
Right.
And I was in those days of solitude, and I was like, "What the fuck do you want? Like, what do you want, Mike?" That was a question that I would ask myself. I'd sit in meditation. I would
Right.
journal. And I was like, man, there's two things I've always wanted to do. Men's work was a part of it, but I was like, I've always wanted to learn shamanic drumming and Mongolian throat singing.
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
like, and I was like, well, the story in my head has always been, well, how is that going to help me as a kettlebell lifter or a kettlebell coach? And I was like, it's always been a no. And I've never allowed myself that permission in that space to go through that. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I want to learn this stuff for me
Hmm.
first and foremost. And so I started looking up online shamanic drumming courses, and I signed up for 3 in that day.
That's great.
I canceled 2 of them because I was like, these are just not resonating. But then one of them, I was like, man, I haven't been this excited since I was probably 18 competing in powerlifting or when I first found Paul Chek's work.
Hmm.
And so I started there, and then I started studying this guy, reading his books. We did a session together. And so I messaged him and I was like, I would love it if you came in and shared something on integration because, and your wisdom, he's just a real dude. And so at the end, I didn't know what it was going to be. And I told the guys the night before, I was like, there's a surprise for you guys tomorrow. They're already super full. They would have been happy if they went home. And so they're like, do we bring our journals? Should we bring workout clothes? I was like, just bring it all. Like this guy is quite, it's going to be an experience. I don't know what it is. So we projected him on a large screen and he took us all through. It was a full blown ceremony. Like the
Wow,
amount
that's
of
amazing.
tears that I shared. And I don't even know what the dance is called at all, to be honest, but it was like an embodied, I don't want to say ecstatic dance because I don't have much experience with that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
me
don't know how much,
either.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like integrating what we've experienced over the course of 3 days through the body, through
Hmm.
movement,
Yeah.
broken up with holding space for guys. So it was beautiful. So yeah.
That makes sense because the body is actually the last thing to be able to integrate any kind of changes you do energetically, spiritually, right? The body's kind of the densest part for integration. So the dance that would make so much sense for to bring it in that way. I love that. And
Well,
it's
like
probably very old. I'm sure it's an old way of doing it, right?
I think, and I don't know if it's just because what resonates with me or because of my community being like the retreat was called Men of Movement. Like most of my people, like my path in personal development all started with movement and in the gym and being injured and rehabbing and
Yeah.
figuring out there's way more to the puzzle than just in the gym. But like when the guys first arrived, we went through a partner group workout because I feel like Men of Movement, we start with movement. We start in the body. And
Yes.
from there, then we can expand outward. Like if anything that the guys got was just being more solid within their body, then I'm confident healing's taking place.
Yes. I agree 100%. I have a similar journey. Started out as an athlete and then as a gymnast for many
Hmm.
years, and then got into fitness and have been doing that most of my life. And so now, like you, I'm like, what do I really want to do? What do I really want to get into now? Like giving myself permission to like follow through with things that didn't really make sense before or didn't so much go together. And for me, it's voice, like sound healing through voice and using, sound. I bought an alchemy bowl when I was in Mount Shasta traveling down there just recently. And so and playing around with different instruments like the ukulele and starting to just sing more. I've been singing most of my life, but it's now I'm really just really enjoying it and just instead of having like a goal with my voice, I'm just enjoying my voice, and just seeing the range of it and the potential there, and exploring that. So wherever it's going to take me but it all is related, right? Because now I'm learning like how that relates to the alignment with your body and how like as a fitness professional, like very tight necks, right? And tight through the throat and how we can release that to become better speakers, and so and diaphragm as well. And so how all those work together, both physically and energetically. So it's just there's something really healing about the voice, and being able to communicate and fully like um, just express yourself that way, So that's what that's been my journey most recently. So
That's so
yeah,
cool because, like, what you shared earlier too about just men having maybe just challenges around communication and bottling things up. And I think that pathway from whether like the root to the throat, the heart to the throat, there's a lot of blockages. And I'm speaking for
yeah,
myself specifically. And that's also why like having regular sharing circles throughout the weekend, like we're practicing and opening that. And like
yeah.
just from the Mongolian throat singing, like Lauren has no, she's like, I've been more expressive and more clear in my expression. And so, and I love that the voice, like anything that we can do from sharing to music to vibration,
Exactly.
it all opens up that and supports that.
Absolutely. I've had a similar experience. It's not really it's not rational in some ways how it works, right? And but but like connecting your heart to your throat is very healing and it does open up so much magic in your life from my experience. So I 100% agree with that. Like that's been a similar path I've been on. So, yeah, like I love the Mongolian throat. Like that is awesome. Awesome. It's so guttural, right? Is it guttural? Yeah, and it's just like it gets down to the roots, and so I've been also playing around with the vocal toning, like toning each chakra, and it's just been incredible because really all we need to do, we don't even have to say any words, just make sounds. Sounds are very like you can say so much just with a sound. It doesn't have to even make sense, right?
You know, I think you're spot on with that. And Lee speaking for me, and I know I've shared other guys have shared this too, like uh when I try to sing a song, for at least me, as soon as the words come out, the judgment is like way quicker. But if I'm literally just trying to make a growling sound with the throat
Yeah.
singing, there's much less judgment. It's more just like opening and expressing.
Exactly. Because what I've learned too, to just piggyback on what you just said, like it's not actually everybody has their own voice signature.
Mhm.
So you might think it sounds terrible. And this has happened to me many times. Like, um, it surprised me because someone's like, "Oh no, it sounds great," So it's like, really? Okay. My singing the person that my vocal teacher, she's just like, "Oh, that sounded amazing." I'm like, "Really?" Like, huh. So what you're hearing sometimes isn't always like it's like that judgment like that comes in like you're like oh but if you can start to let go of that more and just sing and let it come out however it wants to come out because it's going to come out differently each time um, then that's very it's great for doing more with that and letting even more out because if you think about it we hold so much in we suppress so much with our voice too. That's why we get blocks here between the throat and the heart, because we're trying to hold back, right? Because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to, look stupid or silly, or say something that someone might judge us about, or oh God, because, of course, it all goes back to creativity and how what we learned about creativity when we were younger, and the judgment we got from teachers and adults, and other people. So, from my experience anyway, so if we can take those layers off of judgment and just be, that's why I think sound is really good, because you're just making a sound. You're not trying to make it sound a certain way. It's just sounding the way it is. And that's kind of how you're, exposing in some ways with that, right?
Totally, totally. It's been so it's I had no idea like the what it was going to do for me. It was just something I wanted to do, and like to now actually feel and like I'm sitting up better, and I'm
Yeah.
like you said, it's that lower chakra sound, especially in one of the styles of the throat singing. It's like a didgeridoo. Like if maybe someone didn't see me doing it and they heard it, it's that deep primal sound, and it really feels good. Like even on the
Yeah.
throat, on the like the vibration just feels super good inside.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's like a massage for your chakras.
Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it just aligns your energy, and it, again, like you said, like it manifests into a physical place too, because your body like lines up physically when you change the energy from that perspective as well. And yeah, there's just so many things. So gosh, yeah, I love it. I love that you're getting into that. Have you gotten into the drumming at all too, or are you doing that as well, and or
Yeah.
any other instruments as well? Yeah, just the
Yeah,
drumming.
I'm learning how to now integrate the throat singing with the drumming. So just to because I
Oh
have
yeah.
no musical background whatsoever. So
Yeah.
the coordination of that has been really hard. But one of the things that I super appreciate about like Yakov's, for example, like his online course, at least it's only 3 videos. One is an introduction. He teaches 2 beats, the what's called
Wow.
the mother beat or the heartbeat, which is the like the boom 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 boom, and
Oh,
then
that's
the
cool.
father beat, which is like the journey beat or the it's like the trance beat. So it's on four, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4,
Oh
1 2 3.
yeah.
So just learning those, connecting with the drum, being in nature, and these repetitive patterns. That's one reason why they can drop that I'm learning that they can drop me into a very deep meditation or a very deep space is because it's that repetition, that monotonous tone.
Yes.
So I don't know very many, maybe beats is the right word, but what I am practicing just it's all by feeling. And even like my throat singing coach, just a shout out to him, he's amazing. His name is Jerry Walsh, and he's done some formal courses
Hmm.
in music and that sort of stuff. The dude can play like any instrument. He's amazing, and he's learned all of his stuff singing in ceremony. And so the cool thing is like I was really nervous, so I did some throat singing on the first night when I led a meditation around intention setting and some drumming with it.
That's awesome.
And I've been practicing for like at that point like 4 months, doing a session once a week with him. And the days before I called him, I'm like, Jerry, I'm not gonna do it. I'm too goddamn nervous. Like, there's no fucking way I'm doing this, dude. And he told me, and he's like, Mike, he goes, you don't have to, but I would really encourage you to do so. Like, you're actually pretty good. And if you mess up, just don't stop drumming, at least just keep drumming. And he's like, switch the mindset of as opposed to it being a performance, which is
Hmm.
like when I compete, yes, I'm doing it for me, but I'm performing. When I lead a talk, I'm performing in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And he's like, look at it like an offering.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that switch took all the pressure off, and it allowed me, and he's always shared me, he's like, with this stuff, it's not about having a script to it. It's tuning into what you're feeling, expressing that, and also feeling into the group's energy, and then going up, going down, changing. And it's so much more of a fluidic thing. So I really had to like break my thought process on performing to an offering and just tuning into it. Doesn't need to be I can miss beats. He's like, no one will know. Trust me. He's like,
It's
if you
true.
it's
Yeah.
like no one knows throat singing. You probably have never heard it before. So like if you think you mess up, just like don't stop drumming and do it. So I was so grateful because it really felt like an offering, and I grew and I healed, and it was something that I really wanted to share with the guys. So that was really helpful for me.
Oh, that's so great. I love that you did that. That see, and I'm seeing this at least from I guess from my perspective, I'm seeing this convergence of fitness and sound healing, like connecting it to the body in many different ways. And at least in our circle anyway, I don't know about the other all the other places, but yeah, just because I feel like that's what's been missing a lot of times in fitness is the rhythm, right? The rhythm of life. Um, and people being able to express themselves, like we're pushing through things, we're performing, and that's great. But it's like there has to be a time where you can make mistakes and you can offer your gift to people the way it is, and maybe it's entertainment as well. I mean, I don't know, but that's how we see it. But yeah, it's been an unfolding for me also is like, oh God, I was so afraid to make a mistake in the beginning and like, oh, I failed if I did that. But this has been the best really doing or so-called making mistakes are sometimes like just really part of the creative process and we call them mistakes, but they're not really a bad thing. It's just a part of the process. Sometimes you get great things from mistakes, a lot of innovation, a lot of great ideas. So yeah, maybe somebody liked your voice when you felt like you messed up and you just keep using it that way.
Well, you know what's funny, and I don't know if you've had this experience, like we all have specific talents, abilities, skills. We've all put in reps in certain areas. And one thing that Lauren has shared with me in different ways is she's like, um, I'm not going to quote her exactly, but she's like, everything that a lot of things that I share, like I'm really good at. Kettlebell, like I've spent my whole life pretty,
Yes.
18, 20 years doing that. And it's been really cool. Like there's rare opportunities today where I really get to be a beginner again and go through
Yeah.
that awkward process of just feeling like I've constantly got an awkward haircut. Uh, or I'm
That's a
in
good
that
way to put it.
weird growth phase where I'm just like, man, I can see where I want to go and I'm making progress. I've got a little more hair than before, whatever it is. But man, I know I'm awkward right now. And that's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
for someone who's like I'm in the teacher role a lot, it's been really good for me to and I think that in and of itself has been helpful. But Lauren shared that a lot. She's like, it's really good to see you, uncomfortable and frustrated and human. And I'm like, dude, I'm human. Like, or I got shit, and of course I do. And she knows that. But that's been one example that's really like shown
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah, it's great to be like a kind of more of a get that expose yourself to that childlike curiosity within yourself again, right? Because the curiosity is what makes life so much fun and interesting. Excuse me. And like just it just brings life to everything. If you kind of know it all and you're just doing what you're good at all the time, it gets kind of boring. Uh so yeah, well, gosh, thank you so much, Mike. That hour went by very quickly. And I really loved everything you shared today. And if you would please leave my listeners with anything about you that you want to leave on that you're offering, or that I know you have another retreat coming up in 2022, right?
Yep. Yeah. First off, thank you so much for having me. I can't even believe like literally the hour went by so fast. And
I
like
know.
the fact that I got to know Liam so closely over those days, and like now I get to chat with you, and like it really brings me a lot of joy and is just a reminder and like an encouragement to keep going down this path and keep exploring and keep seeing continue creating the container for this for guys. So this has been super fun. And like you shared in 2022, one thing I'm very big on is like taking action. Like once that clarity is there, is taking action. So already at the end of the retreat, when the guys said like, you got to do this again, I booked the farm again. And so May 12th through the 15th will be the next retreat. If anyone would like to follow me on Instagram, it's just my name, but mike.salemi. And if anyone's got any questions on, I've got kettlebell programs and stuff like that that are still very much movement based, but absolutely are all about balancing like energy output with cultivating energy. So they're all very holistic. That's kind of like what really excites me.
Yes, we didn't talk as much about the kettlebells, but you are an amazing teacher for that. I follow your stuff as well, and then sometimes Lauren's on there with you too,
Yeah,
doing it. So it's really wonderful. I highly recommend everybody follow you on Instagram and as well as just go to your next retreat because it's my husband said it was amazing. So, and he came back a different, just like a new person, like not in a bad way. It's just like he just came back like more of him, just, he was able to be him. So that was a beautiful thing. And what a wonderful gift. So thanks again, Mike. Really appreciate you.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.